we're coming to you with a great topic. We're coming to discuss I would say, one of the difficult plights of today. Nowadays, it just seems like, the more people I speak to, come in contact with, even have had some sort of exposure to, it just seems like one portion, what I mean by one portion, I'm talking just a one-on-one dating scenario just doesn't work anymore. I find some people, even in marriages, I've spoken to people about interviews, and when I spoke to them, when you talk to them separately, away from one another, they're quick to bring up how easy it is. If the person does this and doesn't meet this expectation, that they'll divorce him because I got options. I heard one person tell me that, and I was like, you got options? I said, this is bad. So tonight's topic is obesity in love. And I know some of you are thinking, obesity in love, what does that mean? What it's simply meaning is, nowadays, the normal appetite for love as we know it historically with maybe our grandparents or our mothers and fathers is totally different. And nowadays, what used to satisfy people in one shot just doesn't work anymore. And we have people that are constantly doing a ton of other things. We have, you're dating one person and you're learning that there's also a bench of 6 other people, including yourself. And so you're just like, how do you decode and break this down? And so first things first, I do want to say, I want to thank God first for opening this platform for me to be able to even step out in a vein such as this. Historically, I know many of you, some of you may know me and may not, but historically this is just the kind of thing I would have never ever put myself in the front like to do, for various reasons. Number one, as a disclaimer, I'm not a clinically licensed specialist or anything like that. I'm more of a professional by way of experience, though. I will tell you that I've just about been there and done just about all of it. So I just, not too long ago, a friend of mine, Dr. Cheryl Holmes, I want to give her a shout out. Dr. Cheryl Holmes, she reached out to me sometime back in August. She recently got married, so congrats to her. She reached out to me to ask me to be a part of a session that she was holding back in September. It was called Man Cave Conversations. And it was a forum set up to sort of platform the book she released, His Heart, Her Voice. And she wanted to set up a platform where women can get a greater insight of the heart of man. And I guess her reasoning behind it was, besides her own carnage and maybe in recent marriages or whatever she's dealt with and other women that she maybe talked to, she felt like, let me open up a platform where some healing can begin and women can begin to hear from the heart of men. And so she invited me on that platform, and pretty much that's what sparked this. I told her when she asked me would I join the cast, I was a little nervous, but when I did it, I really felt at home and it felt easy. So I continued at it, and once her session was over after that month of September, that's when my wheels started turning, and one thing led to another, and now I'm here. And so I'm thankful for that. Tonight with me also, I have 2 wonderful guests. I have one guest, it's Natalie Birdsong. She is a celebrity stylist here in Illinois. So if you, I guess you're looking for some good hair, so I'll let you tell the whole story. You're looking for some great hair, she's the person to go to. And then also to further to the right of Natalie is Erica Durham. And Erica is a fabulous chef in Chicago, and she's been on the news, TV, and one thing after another, and she's, she has a dessert line and different things that she does. And so I'll let them all give you a little taste of who they are. Let me start with you, Natalie.
Okay. So my name is Natalie Birdsong, affectionately known as Natalie B here in the Chicagoland area, but I am a celebrity stylist and a salon owner here in the city. I was so happy that Charles invited me on the show. I'm very delighted to share my viewpoint on kind of where dating has gone awry and discuss how we can get back on track. I'm originally from Indiana. I've been living in Illinois for the past 12 years, and I've had my fair share of dating experiences, some worth mentioning, others not. But hopefully we can have a discussion today that starts to kind of break the ice and headway towards how we get back on track to healthy, loving relationships.
Okay, so I'm Erica, and I'm thankful to be here, but I have to say that I'm coming from a different perspective just because I was married for a long time, and so I'm back in the dating scene again, and it's been a very different experience for me than I had before. And so I'm trying to navigate my way through that and figure out how to do this, basically, because there are all of these rules, and I don't know what the rules are really. I'm trying to learn them, although I am a bit of a rule breaker in general. So it's just really, I'm just trying to find my way at this point.
All right, awesome. So we may as well just dive right on in. So, all right, let's start with you, Natalie.
Sure.
So in today's dating world, whether it be, online dating, I'm not sure if you're part of that community or if you've experienced it, but online dating or just navigating your singleness period.
Sure.
What are some of the challenges you face as a woman, attractive woman that could, basically you bossing it in Chicago and you can pretty much write your own ticket by way of dues if you wanted to. So for you, what are some of the challenges that you run into in terms of running into maybe the obstacle of meeting a guy that just really is not interested in you solely, but he wants to be a friend, but much more?
I think one of the biggest hurdles is lack of transparency. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I think that we live in a social media driven world. Mm-hmm. And so people feel pressured to outdo the next person, mm-hmm. or to look or come off a certain way, and that transfers over into their relationships. They're not, I would say that dating now, you have to deal with a lot of people not being honest and upfront. And not saying that hasn't always existed, but I think that social media and the need to come off as having a perfect life, okay, is causing people to behave in a way that it just doesn't work for relationships. Okay. So dealing with a lot of lies, a lot of pretend, and then their stories falling apart like a month in, and you realizing that the person that you thought you were getting to know isn't even that person to begin with.
So would you say men are just, like you said, some of the dishonest and all the things like that? Would you say what you see most of are men mainly pretending, or do you think some of it is because they feel like, the classic, your bar is too high and I have to kind of lie to get close to you, or you probably wouldn't pay me no attention in the first place?
No, I think that it could be a little bit of that. Okay. I think that, as far as the bar being too high, everyone's entitled to their own standards, okay? So, and then who would I be to come along and tell you, you know what, Charles, I can't meet that standard, so you need to lower it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that if I were speaking from a place of being very candid, what I've encountered is maybe some people coming for me that probably shouldn't. Okay. And then when they do, not being honest about who they are and giving me a choice to make a decision about whether or not that's, a situation I want to deal with or not.
Okay. What about you, Erica? Same question.
Well, just to piggyback off what Natalie said about honesty, I am a very honest person. Sometimes to a fault. Okay. Not hurtful, but honest. Okay. I just appreciate the same, but unfortunately, it's very difficult to find that. Even when you ask for it, one thing that I have said in the past, actually a few times, is people like to be lied to. They won't ever admit that, but it seems like there is a penalty for honesty. And so that's one of the things I'm having difficulty with, because in the end, I want to, of course, be my truest self, and that's all I've ever done, but I don't know that that's always appreciated. And so when I mentioned earlier about the rules really don't allow for that.
For you being vulnerable.
Right.
Okay.
And be honest and be truly, yourself. And I've never been good at, well, you have to wait and do this a certain amount of time, and you have to do, I just,
It'll work for you.
it doesn't. I just am very transparent.
Right.
I say how I feel, and I would like the same, but unfortunately, that's very difficult to find.
I think, unfortunately, the lack of being vulnerable nowadays is why everyone, as opposed to moving forward, people are laterally moving in a circle, which is creating this big smorgasbord line. If you go to a all-you-can-eat buffet, it's like a processing line, and that's what's happening now. People are just going in a circle, but no one is kind of stepping up and saying, this is what I want to do with you, and this is where we're going to go. And it just seems like, I guess, I don't want to turn this into, I don't want this to be a man-mashing session, but if I had to hold us as men responsible, I would say some time ago, men turned the phrase friend into the new safe word. Back in the day, there was a time where you could maybe meet someone, and let's just say if you're talking at the mall or the club or wherever you are, and you talk to the person, the first thing most women would say, so what are you looking for? And the minute the guy would say something like, I just want to be your friend, then at that point, you go on, so when you're wasting my time, I don't want to be bothered with you. But nowadays, it's the universal word. It's like, it's a deceptive word. It means many things. I could be dating you, and you can say, oh, my friend Dante is coming over to help put up my flat screen TV. To me, I'm thinking it's your legitimate friend, maybe from high school or something like that. Knowing it's another story. You slept with him, you guys had a full-on relationship, it just didn't work out, so you're cool, and now he does favors. And he hangs around in the background as the cleanup guy, but he just doesn't, there's no commitment there. So I think this is a really, really bad problem. I think men, we have conditioned women to be in this mindset, and it's like now, the roots have come home girl. So now, what do? We have this world where a lot of women are okay with the way men think. And I think that's the issue, and a lot of men are actually more afraid of that than they admit. Because when it comes to meeting someone, both of you, meeting you and saying they're viable candidates to go forward with, but in their mind, oh, she's a little too cool and she just want to be my friend, so I don't know if I want to risk my heart being vulnerable with this person because she may just kick me to the curb. I can't handle that. So instead of doing that, like you said, on comes the mask, and on comes the lies, and all the other stuff that come with it. Which doesn't help. So what I would like to say is, I think we need to just start to go in the direction of just, really spreading the word to people that you don't have to go along to get along. I know it's easier said than done when someone is lonely, but it's really the only way to begin to get things back to at least a normal ground zero, where you can kind of start again and start being vulnerable and being truthful and try to really build something sincerely. Other than that, it's pretty hard to get anything going nowadays like this. It's too many avenues of convenience and deceit for anyone to really trust anybody. And it's really scary to be like that, and you really hate to kind of bring news that way, but that's the reality of the world we live in today. Whether it's unfortunately, it's not just, it's in the church, it's happening in the church, it's happening in the street, it's exclusive to one place. The trickery is happening everywhere. And so, I'm just trying to just start a little movement, one heart at a time, to try to change this around and help people to start believing in love again. And so we're going to take a quick break, and we will come back to you in just a few seconds. But we thank you guys for who are listening so far, and we'll be right back shortly. Yes. Good job, guys. So, then we're gonna come back and talk about the cure. How do we begin to get on the cure, and how do you women are gonna pose yourself in different ways going about it going forward that's gonna make a difference for yourself, and how you approach and what you accept, that kind of thing like that.
I think something else we gotta kind of dig into is, you know, people dating from a place of hurt. You should not be dating while you're still hurting.
That's a good one.
You know, and I could definitely go into more detail about that, but I've had my own experiences with that,
Okay.
and it didn't work.
Okay.
Didn't work at all, as a matter of fact. It
Okay.
failed miserably.
Okay.
But, you know, there's something to be learned
Okay.
and said about that.
Okay. So we're gonna go from your place, and then what's your issue? We're gonna go from her issue, and then you think of your
This
issue.
was a past issue.
No, no,
but
I'm
it's
saying, but
definitely
it's something that you think should be brought
It's
up.
something
Yeah.
that's applicable to a lot of people that are out
So
there.
I'm gonna
trying to
cue
get-
you, so you'll know what to do.
The next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you coming out, still say your name, the name of the show,
Okay.
or broadcast
Okay.
media. Then you can also have them call in to talk to you. 312-754-4333. That's right in front of you, but I'm gonna write it on here, okay?
Sure, sure.
All right.
Pose the question.
Okay. So you read this book. This is a good book. It's a good book.
That's the biggest book, yeah. It's a good book.
But, so what I do is I go through phases. So a couple of years ago, I was in the Caribbean, Vietnamese.
Hey, Cheryl.
I was in a Latin Caribbean phase for
Hey, Rachel.
a few years. Now I'm in an Italian phase, southern Italy, because when I work, it's for an Italian family-based business. So I've kind of submerged myself in that.
I love Italian food. It's not conducive to my work life balance, but I love it.
Italian has been very difficult. It's hard. And I make the focaccia. I make that focaccia every day. It's very difficult to like make the bread smell, you know, not eat it.
All right, we are back. I'm your host, Charles Dixon, and this is Unique Perspectives Love Talk Radio. And during our break, one of the panelists brought up a good point that we're going to allow her to drive in, and that's Natalie. You got the floor.
Okay, so what we were discussing is basically you have a whole group of people that are out here dating from a place of hurt. And what I mean is maybe they've just gotten out of a bad relationship. Maybe they have some baggage from that relationship and they're not all the way healed. But because they don't want to find themselves alone, they are still attempting to date. And it's probably one of the biggest mistakes you can do, because you not only are setting yourself up for failure, but you're dragging someone else along with you. And I can speak from a place of personal experience. I remember a relationship that I had, and you know, there were many beautiful things about the relationship, but there were also some tragedies in the relationship. And after being with someone for so long, you think that, you know, you just can't be by yourself. And one of the biggest mistakes you make is not taking that time to reevaluate who you are now versus who you were when you started the relationship, because we all change and grow within the realms of relationships. And attempting to move forward thinking that you know who you are when you really don't. And so you take this whole list of baggage of what you will accept, and I'm not gonna do this, and I ain't taking that. And in reality, you are carrying that list that was from a past relationship to a new relationship that's not even applicable to the new person. And so you end up dragging them through a bunch of crap that they didn't have to go through, just based on the fact that you weren't even ready to date to begin with.
But then, okay, so this is I always wrestle with this, because on one hand you say, I don't want to take this baggage with me, but where's the line between baggage and learning from your past mistakes? Because a lot of times people say, oh, well, I can say, well, this person reminds me of this relationship, or they have certain behaviors, and I know I don't like that. So is that me bringing my baggage into it, or is that me evolving? And so I guess that's what that's what I'm trying to discover, is what is the line? How do you determine which?
Well, you know what, in my case, I think that some of the things that I thought I liked at the end of that relationship, I realized when I had taken that time to discover who I was, that I really didn't like them. I think that he liked them, and so I thought I liked them. So that's why I said that it's very important to take some time to reevaluate who you've grown to be within the realms of that relationship, so that you are self-aware of the person that you're presenting to the next relationship. And that has to come from a place of introspect and honesty. You know, you have to say, you know what, these are my weaknesses, these are my strengths, and am I projecting my weaknesses onto the next person because I haven't discovered my true strength and what I really got out of that relationship. So there is kind of like, if you will, a cool-off period where you take time to discover who you are again before you start dating, so that you don't cause a relationship that could have been a good one to collapse just because you weren't really ready to begin with.
Well, not only just cause a relationship that could have been a good one, but you sometimes find yourself, and this happened with me, in bad relationships. Just because, like you said, you've been in a relationship for so long that you don't know really how to not be in one. Next thing you know, you find yourself in one, but it's not the person that that you really should have been with, and you kind of look at it and wonder how you got there, but really because of what you said, you need a certain amount of time, and for each person it's different, but you really do need to take that time and look within and figure out who you are now and what your needs are, like you said, and act accordingly and choose accordingly, really, because I really did kind of dive into, and honestly, it was a situation where I thought I loved this person, but it was because I felt like he loved me. And at that moment in my life, I needed to feel loved. So having that feeling ended up making me make the bad decisions. And then I look back now and say, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? But, I'm a person where I really don't believe in regrets. I do believe in learning from experiences. As long as you learn from them.
Right.
As long as you don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And that's sometimes our problem, is that we keep on picking the wrong man. We keep on picking the wrong woman. And we need to kind of sit back and figure out what we need and what we have to offer and what we require.
This is true. And it goes back to one of the things we touched on off air about how people, it's almost like they're hopping from person to person. So you take this baggage into this next relationship, and then you realize that, okay, well, that failed. And then you go to the next one, okay, well, that failed. And at some point, you have to look at what the common denominator is in all of it. And if you're honest with yourself, it may just be you. And it's okay to realize that and take a moment to self-reflect and say, okay, well, you know what? Am I really the person that I think I am? Or is there a common denominator where maybe I'm projecting this persona onto every single relationship that I'm in? So I think for me, when I had my experience, I dated tragically right after my main relationship. And when I sat and I thought about it, like, dang, that didn't work and that didn't work. The only common denominator was me. So I had to say, well, you know what, Natalie, maybe it's you. And maybe that requires you to, kind of look at yourself and see if you know where you're headed and what you want.
So I would call those, the way you kind of posed it, basically dating hurt, but I call it like they're moving violations. Because basically what's going on is you're moving while wounded. And what's happening is, if you think about it from a hospital standpoint, if something tragic happens, let's just say every time a woman or a man gets hurt in one capacity or another, they're all different. Somebody may have found out their wife was cheating or their husband was cheating. Somebody may have gotten deceived in another way. Maybe it wasn't infidelity, but it was a way that hurt them. So all of those wounds are applicable to different wounds that may occur in a hospital. So if you figure if you got shot, stabbed, or something like that, or in a serious car accident, you're not just turning around the next night and scrolling through Tinder looking for who else is available. You down on your back. You know, a lot of times you may have stitches, you may have a cast, so there's a period that you have to go through before you're able to step back out and walk into, not even be dating, but to function again. Some people get really, a good way to see when somebody is really, really wounded and not ready is when you're talking to them, they're easily irritated. Quick anger, that's letting you know that basically I'm not strong, but this is, I'm gonna give you all this yelling and all this, if let's just say cursing or whatever you call it, because I can't really do my normal thing to deal with myself with you. So this is my way of dealing with you, do hell and anger. So you get a lot of fighting and arguing when people are just not ready. And I think that's a big issue that's kind of flooding the waters nowadays and messing up the dating pool, period. People that are in the game that shouldn't be. And I mean, we're going to a different topic. But anyway, nonetheless, another topic is people that are quote unquote complicated. And what I mean by that, it's a whole lot of undone situations that are jumping in the pool. Meaning, you know, you got the ones that they want you to, I call it, they want you to serve time with them. People that are separated. You know, we live in the same house, but we're not together. Oh, you know, or somebody that may tell you, well, as soon as I find me the right one, I'm gonna leave. It's easy if I'm not an advocate of anybody divorcing. You know, I believe in you gonna work it out or try to keep it going. But if that's your avenue, like they say in the Bible, then tarry fast and make it happen. Don't sit there and delay. Don't delay and make someone else do time with you. If you're gonna be done with it, be done with it. But because it's everyone out here nowadays, I think the biggest demon we all are dealing with in dating and love, period, is selfishness. People put themselves before you any day. And I mean, it could be your friend. Like I saw, I was looking at a movie, I was looking at Queen Sugar the other day, the series. Yeah. I was looking at Queen Sugar, and I was looking at a series where, I forget the sister, the dark-skinned sister with yeah. I was looking at a series where she's starting to date this new guy, and he's in a movement with her. Yeah. And I noticed when, one time they were at a function outside, he was helping her put some things together, and she was talking to a female friend of hers. And then he came up, and the first thing I saw, it irritated me, because soon as the friend saw him, she began to just, you know, she took this posture of like, look at this attractive man, even though she was supposed to be her friend. And when he walked away, even though she joked, it was a subliminal message. She said, what you doing? Are you with him? Because I was going to say, if you wasn't, I'm going to take it. And that's the mentality that people are serious. They may be joking, but people, that's how serious it is when it comes to someone else putting their happiness before yours. They will take the person if you leave that door for it to happen. And so it's deadly and brutal out here, but that's what's going on. It's real. Yeah. And so I would just suggest, you know, we all, you know, in reality, to answer your question, people get hurt, and unfortunately, the day and time we live in, no one wants to be left behind. So that's why people think they need to hurry up and jump and find somebody else. Somebody gonna drag me with them, because I can't just be on my back with nobody. So somebody gonna take all this pain I got and just help me deal with it. And unfortunately, you got some women out here that they've been blessed with looks and different things, and it's men that will take them. They don't matter if they crying every day, the guy will still pick them up. It's unfortunate, but you got men that will come over there and do whatever the woman wants just because she has that kind of prowess and that kind of attractiveness to get him to do it. And it's not healthy, and it's sad, because a lot of times you're his rebound. I mean, you're her rebound, and eventually when she get on her feet, she's gonna dump you and be who she want to be with. But this happens. It's really sad, but it's going on out there. So it's a mess. And if you notice, think about it. When you go into smorgasbord places, you go in there and you looking, first your eyes like, oh, there's food. But the second thing, I don't know about you, but the second thing come to me is disgust. Because the first thing I'm thinking, people are breathing over food, hair, it just gives me a nasty feeling. So that's how the dating pool feels to me. It looks like it's just because everything is passed around and somebody reached over, it's just like, So it's like, how do you get back to things being normal again? Because it's not good out here at all, I'm telling you. It really isn't.
I think to get back to a place of normal, it requires you to stop for a second and set a standard for yourself.
Okay.
You know, the reason why the smorgasbord that you speak of exists is because people have become very comfortable with lowering their standards for the sake of instant gratification.
Right, right.
So I think that once you realize who you are and what makes you feel good as a person,
Right.
and you meet someone that kind of plays into that, and they can help build you up, and even your weaknesses, they can help those become strengths, then you have something solid. But in the interim, you know, you don't have to lower your standard because someone else is uncomfortable meeting it. There are 8 billion people or so in this world.
Right.
So just because that one girl or that one guy,
Right.
you know, they don't meet your expectation, it doesn't mean that you need to all of a sudden scrap that expectation and throw it out the window.
Right.
I think you have to remain true to who you are and exhibit some sense of transparency. Show that.
I mean, but I was thinking about what you said about, or the whole smorgasbord analogy. I guess the way I see it is a lot of time, it's almost the opposite, where people have choices now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was expected, and we had talked about this offline,
Mhm.
where, you know, people were getting married as a teenager,
Right.
Sure.
a long, long time ago.
Right.
And you were expected to stay with that person until the day you died. And I think that, you know, women are freer now, or are allowed to be more free.
Mm-hmm.
And,
liberated.
right, and I think the whole smorgasbord analogy is kind of like, sometimes people kind of collect people for
Yeah.
different needs.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's very
maybe,
true.
Yeah.
maybe this is the person that, you know, is really good cuddler. And this person over here will,
He can fix stuff.
he can fit, oh, listen,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna tell you this.
There's
That's a big
there's
one.
value in that
There's
though.
a, are you kidding me? I was just talking about this
There's
yesterday.
value.
There's a huge amount of value in that. It's very high on the list.
Yeah.
But you know, so you have the physical person, you have the emotional person, you have the best friend that we have a lot of fun with. And, you know, I think ultimately, we all wanna find that person that encompasses all these things. But until then, people just keep on collecting until you find them.
But do you ever wonder whatever happened to, you know, a person having a good deal of what you want them to have inside,
Right.
and working with them to build up whatever other characteristics. Like, so for example, this person is a really good person, but maybe they're a little weak on this. Like, whatever happened to rolling up your sleeves and sticking by their side? You know, those were things that our grandparents did, our parents did, well, some of our parents did. But I think that it's just like Charles said, that everyone has become, not everyone, but a lot of people have become so selfish, and they can't see at the end of the tunnel how adding a solid person to you, 1 + 1 should equal 2. In their mind, it only equals 1 + 1 equals 0.5. So they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel because they themselves get in the way of that. I think that being able to work with a partner to build something solid is kind of like the direction we need to start thinking, and stop thinking so much about me.
Right, and that's a serious point, because I think it's hindering a lot of women from finding, or at least men too, finding who you want from. Like you're saying, you have this list broken down into broken parts, and it's almost like you're judging the people, because no one person has it all. But if you're patient with them, because think about it, who you may think is your to you, your handy guy may be someone else's top pick.
Right.
You know, to you it's a handy guy, but to somebody else, oh, he's a faithful man to God. She loves him, but you're just like, oh, come over and fix my TV and then you go home.
Me.
No, I'm just making an example, but that's how men feel used. She wants to put up your
generally.
TV, but then he can go on somewhere, give him some chicken, that's it. That's not what, but he might like you because he's over there, he putting the TV up, but he's doing it because he really likes you. He's not coming over there to be your option. He's coming over there because he really likes you. But this is the reality of what's happening. You know, women compartmentalize men, and men, we don't really compartmentalize. We just, you know, flat out, that's you, that's it, and we don't do a compartmentalizing like you guys do.
Well, but no, I don't necessarily.
We're gonna take a quick break. Sorry about that. We're gonna take a quick break. This is Unique Perspectives Loves Talk Radio, and we're coming to you live from Urban Broadcast Media, and we shall be right back after these messages. Sorry.
I was gonna say that I don't necessarily agree with that, because whether or not men want to admit it, you guys have a list. You have, now, and your list may be.
No, I didn't say we didn't have a list. I said we don't separate you according to strengths.
Well,
we just.
Is that a true statement? Because you may, then this whole invention of side pieces, let's talk about that, because they've always existed. But you have a wife that's over here that's, or a significant other that's cooking and she's cleaning and she's taking care of the kids, but maybe she doesn't do as many fun tricks as this chick over here. So you guys do compartmentalize in your own little way. It's just usually based on desire.
Okay.
And maybe sexual needs more so than ours would be. Ours would be based on just necessity of life help.
Okay.
Per se.
And I think also how a woman makes a man feel, because I think that's what it always boils down to.
That's the bottom line.
How she makes
That's
me
it.
feel.
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
so,
Yeah.
Do I feel like the king, or do I feel like
We
the servant?
fall in love with people because of not what people feel or realize, not that what the person has, what they can do for you. You fall in love with them because of how they make you feel when you're in their presence. That's what you fall in love with.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So, yeah. So on the next segment, we're gonna open up the lines to let people participate if they want and ask questions.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So we'll go to about 9.
Yeah, so 8:55 is wrap up, and then 9 is over, yeah.
you know what, I just realized the other day that it's
Hey,
been
guys.
final in January 2 years.
We're gonna open the lines to allow you to call in shortly, so if you wanna call in and add a comment, or ask a question, feel free to. I'll give you the number in a second.
After that relationship I was in and I was dating, I was like, what the heck? What happened?
And like you said, social media, I took it to another level. The dating sites, catfishing, all of these things.
All right, and we're back to Unique Perspectives Love Talk Radio, coming to you live on Urban Broadcast Media. Okay, this is the session where we're going to open up the phone lines to any of the listeners who may want to call in and add a perspective. You may have a question, or you just simply want to add a comment. Feel free to call in at 312-754-4333. That's 312-754-4333. Yes, and you put up another good point again, man. We're going to break.
I did. I was gonna say that while indeed women, just like you were talking about women, we might have someone that it's a good color, maybe someone who can fix things, maybe someone who's mentally there, who's supportive. Men are guilty of the exact same thing. A great example of that is the introduction of the side piece, the side chick, she has always existed, but she's never had the power that she has now. And I think that with men, it's more of a physical need. So you have this great woman that's cooking and cleaning and taking care of the home and doing whatever, but maybe she emasculates you in some way. Maybe you don't feel like as much of a king, but then you have your side piece who makes you feel like you're the king of the castle, and maybe she's a little more free and adventurous, and you guys compartmentalize as well. So I don't think it's just a woman thing. I think that, both men and women
They have different ways of doing it.
different ways of doing it, but I think that we can both be guilty of it. It doesn't mean that we all are, but it just means that, we can be guilty of it in our own ways.
So why do you think the side chick has the power?
Well, you would have to ask a man that, because I feel like men have given her this elevation. Like women, just so you know, women, we don't celebrate side pieces. As a matter of fact, in most female circles, they are looked down upon. And no one loves a homewrecker. So I think that this new celebrity that they found, again, is driven a lot by social media. Young girls are looking up to that, and they seem to be getting all the little tricks and the treats and stuff like that. But that's definitely something that you could maybe ask a guy. I don't know why they're celebrating so much now.
I don't think they have power in that. My perspective on it is anything that you're using has no power. It's like you renting it. You're using it, you can take it back. So it don't have no power. It's like nobody. Like if I was a married guy and I was dealing like that, I'm dealing like that because I'm using this person. Yeah, she may think she's getting a purse or some food or something out of it, but I'm using her because my loyalty and my commitment is to home. So I already have a home. So if I'm stepping out of my home, it's simply recreation. I'm using you. So I'm not going to put myself in a position where you can jackknife my house. You know, it's just, you side chick, okay, that's your perspective, a place position you want to take, and that's how I'm going to deal with you, and that's going to be that. But
the problem with entertaining a side piece is that you do not have any control over whether or not it will wreck your house. Anytime you introduce another person into an equation, then there's an uncontrollable variable, and that other person is that uncontrollable.
You mean
variable.
It's in terms of getting at your wife and all that?
Well, yeah, and if the loyalty and commitment exists from, let's just say, the guy's perspective, then the side piece doesn't exist. So there is a sort of transfer of power in that exchange that you have with that person, because you are allowing her to experience a part of you, however small it may be, part of you that should be reserved for your committed relationship. So there is an exchange of power.
I agree. I mean, you're right. I feel as though today's side chick is the spawn of the former day, the other woman. Back in the day, the other woman simply was the person on the other side of town. She had a kid by him, like a total family, and she was counting down all the promises that he made. I told you I'm gonna leave her, and so she stayed on him for years. She'd be in the closet for 20 years, and then there'd be times she followed. I mean, they were so bold back in the day, they would drive and follow the wife to her job and find out all the information, but she wouldn't necessarily say nothing, but she would just threaten him. Nowadays, the side chick women are just silent, and that's what's most scary. They're not necessarily hunting your wife down. They're just receiving the benefits of what you've given them as a trade-off, which is even worse.
To me, then it's come full circle, because even before the other woman period, there was a period where he had 2 complete households.
Yeah.
So maybe your other family lived a couple blocks over, and your wife knew about the other family, and everyone knew, but you never really spoke of it. And so then maybe women felt a little bit more liberated, and they felt like they could, be a little bit more vocal, and now it's more accepting again. I mean, I don't understand.
There's a sort of boldness that has taken place.
Yeah. But I think it's fueled from anger. I think it's
on Facebook.
Okay, thank you. I think it's fueled from anger, because a lot of women, I think, personally, are, if I'm thinking of a side chick or other woman, to me, they all come from the same origin of someone wanting normalcy, just like the two of you. You want a normal life, you want a husband. Somewhere along the line, they felt like their opportunity was robbed. And so instead of processing out that emotion correctly, they bottled it up, and they became real callous and angry and scornful, and then they lost compassion for their fellow sister and his wife, and they just said, you know what, that dream doesn't work. So this is a position I'm going to take, or I'm going to have the power, and I get to choose when he goes home or when I want to leave and all that. I'm not going to be left with this bag of emotions anymore. This is how I'm going to do it, and that's what the daily thing is now, because a lot of men are literally leaving their wives for side pieces. It's really terrible. So we have some comments here. Okay. Someone said from your earlier comment, Natalie, April Hummins Knox says, give yourself time to heal. Let's see, Geneva, Olivia says the dating game is rough. Let's see, 3 dots H. Let's see, someone says, well, the man is a liar and sneaky, dating you and someone else too. The dating game is rough when the man is a cheater. I would say the dating game is rough when you're anticipating cheating. I always tell people, you know, don't put all the onus on the man. Like when you come into a situation, if you check out the guy and he seems like, if you really have a serious gut feeling that he's a bad cheater and he's this, that, and the other, walk away. People want to wait because there's something about him they like, whether it be physical, financial, or his stature, his position, whatever, so they feel like they can weather the bullets. And they hang in there. I can take a little bit of these bullets, it's not gonna hurt too bad. They hang in there until he hit them with that one AK-47 that kills them. Then they hate men in general, period. But they take those risks. Women like, they can say what they want, but a lot of women like risky guys. That's just what it is. I'm telling you, when a guy comes across risky, but he got some validity to him, not total bum, but he's a little risky, but he seems like he's mysterious.
What you're talking about,
Yeah.
referring to as a little edge.
A little edge to him. He got a little edge to him, you give him a little chance, but when he bites you,
Right.
then you hate all the men. But you took that chance. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, it's a sad game. It is bad because, you know, I'm just gonna be honest. Okay. By all intents and purposes, I probably shouldn't even be on this platform. Okay. I would say that, and I'm just going to be transparent, because I didn't process my own hurt historically when things happened to me. Because I felt like, you know, I came up in a good upbringing in church, and I had my parents in the home, so I was pretty balanced. But I don't think I was prepared for reality in the streets outside the church. And I think that's where my hiccup came. You know, I came out into the world, and everything was, come on, let's go to church. Come on, let's go to church. Like my dad, he didn't give me nothing. Listen, the girls, he didn't give me that talk. My mother, she didn't say nothing about that. All she said was, get yourself together and go to this prayer meeting. That was it. That's all I got. I mean, she meant well, and she kept me out of a lot of things, but it just set me up into a lot of other things. And so as a result of that, when I got hurt and I had no one helping me or anything like that, I went through a terrible, terrible storm of cheating, and setting up and cheating and doing some more and then some. And so for me, the only reason why I have the burden to do this is because regardless of how I got the information, I got it. You know what I'm saying? And the good thing about it is I do have a conscious, whether people believe it or not, I have a conscious and I have a relationship with God that I put together. And after so long of doing wrong, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. And you got to say, okay, do you want to keep living your life like this? Or do you want to use this stuff that you know to the betterment of other people? So at this point, this is my give back. You understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to help other people do better, look out for different things, and, you know, be able to just contribute to the chaos I created, my little portion anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's that. I don't think no one got a chance to call in. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. I want to thank my guests, Natalie and Erica, for definitely joining me. You know, this is my first time out. You know, it's a little nervous for me, but I appreciate you guys being there. Definitely helped save some of the blunt for me. You know, help me out a little bit.
Not a problem.
So I appreciate that. Next week, Natalie got a little bit into the topic, but next week we're going to be dealing with the emergence of the side chick. We're going to really dig into that, because that's a serious issue. So I'm glad you kicked it off. But next week is going to be, we're going to tear right into it, because I think that's something that's keeping a lot of men from really, really committing, because they know that a lot of men know, you know, women want to know why won't he commit. It's because he has too many options that don't require him to. So he's like, you're nice, you're pretty, but so is she, and she's not asking for all that. So this is how I want to live now. So until that accountability is putting your friends' faces that you say your friends that you don't care for, that ones that deal with the married men, until you kind of keep holding them accountable and to get them to change, this is the world we in right now, you know, unfortunately.
Well, that's just great.
That'll be such an interesting topic to dive into.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different angles.
Right. And so I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We look forward to continuing this each week here at Urban Broadcast Media. And thank you for being here, and We will be seeing you later. Thank you.